Hey, flock and friends, welcome to episode 5 of Write That Crochet Pattern podcast. In today's episode, I'm going to talk a little bit about the technical aspect of pattern writing, and I'm going to share why you need to change your mindset when it comes to writing crochet patterns. For those of you who don't know me yet, my name is Cherie Mellick. I am the crochet tech editor behind Sweet Bird Crochet. As a crochet tech editor, I specialize in helping designers publish patterns that are not only accurate, but also clear, polished, and easy to follow. My mission is to empower crochet designers through education and mentorship so they can write and design patterns with excellence. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. Go ahead and grab your latest project, your favorite drink, and listen in as you crochet. The first time I was ever introduced to technical writing was when I was in college. I had the bright idea of taking some prerequisite courses in the middle of the worst time in my life. I mean, I had 4 little kids. Like they were little. And I honestly wish I had all the time in the world to share the messy and painful details, but that would take more than just one episode. Honestly, at the moment, it seemed like the dumbest choice I could have made, but I had no idea that it was exactly what I needed. And my short stint with getting a quote unquote professional education, it still impacts me almost 20 years later. I remember walking into lit class for the first time. I had a 3-ring binder in one hand and a pouch full of pins in the other. I have been obsessed with writing and pens and journals since I was 9 years old when my mom had bought me my very first diary. I don't know if she bought that diary so that I can write my stories down instead of talking her ear off about them, or if she had seen something in me and wanted to invest in that passion. Either way, I had stories. I had a lot of stories to tell. As a matter of fact, I still have stories. Okay, so Mr. Knight, my lit teacher, had long tables that were shaped like a U around his classroom. He sat in the middle of them. And when I walked in that classroom and I saw him, I knew I wanted to be front and center of all his lessons. I always looked forward to Tuesday mornings because I felt like when I went to lit class, I was in my element learning about grammar and parts of speech, syntax, proofreading, and editing. I just loved it so much. And when he gave us our first writing assignment, I was over the moon. So he had given us what the title of our writing project was going to be, and it was supposed to be titled How to Make a Peanut Butter and Jelly Sandwich. This was my first introduction into technical writing, and who knew that over 20 years later, I would be a technical editor, editing other people's technical copy. As a matter of fact, I'm also a technical writer because I write crochet patterns. Yes, that is right. Crochet patterns are considered technical copy. And this is exactly where we're going to start this episode because what I share in this episode is going to be the very foundation of everything that I teach in this podcast or in any of the content that I share. If you can understand the concepts that I share and begin to change your mindset about how you approach writing crochet patterns, you're going to be one step closer to being a better pattern writer. So, what is technical writing? So, technical writing is all about making complex information really easy to understand, especially when it comes to very specialized topics. Think of it as taking something super complicated and breaking it down into really, really clear, straightforward language that everyone in a specific audience can understand. Technical writing, or also called technical copy, is very different from other types of writing. A technical writer must possess in depth knowledge of the specific subject matter that they're writing about. That means that they need to have a really strong background in that area. Additionally, they have to be familiar with all the relevant standards and conventions for writing the technical copy in their field of expertise. There are a lot of categories that fall under technical writing. So, a few examples are things like contracts or user manuals that you get with, like, your washer or dryer, warning labels, websites, proposals, product categories, and instructions. And what is a crochet pattern? They're just instructions. Crochet itself is a specialized topic. Not everyone knows how to crochet. I tried to find some statistics showing like how many people in the world crocheted, but I couldn't find any solid findings. But with over 8 billion people worldwide, this is a pretty niche market, if you know what I mean. If you were to go up to just some random people on the street where you're at, not everyone is going to know the crochet terms or even the specialized shorthand that's involved in the instructions. Since crochet patterns are specialized instructions with specialized terminology and specialized abbreviations, they are considered technical copy. To achieve the desired result of a crochet pattern, a person needs to follow the specific, precise technical instructions. And these instructions are technical in nature for a few reasons. So the first one is the mathematical accuracy. Crochet patterns involve a lot of calculations. There's calculations for stitch counts, row or round repetitions, there's the calculations for gauge, and then the overall dimensions of the project. And the math in a crochet pattern, it has to be correct for the finished project to turn out as it was intended to be. Then there's also the standardized terminology. So patterns use standard crochet abbreviations and terms, for example, SC for single crochet, DC for double crochet, which require consistency throughout the pattern. The terminology must align with the industry standards, making it a specialized form of writing. Then there's also the logical sequence and construction of a crochet pattern. A crochet pattern involves step by step instructions that need to flow in a logical sequence. And the writer must communicate construction techniques in a clear and structured way so their readers can replicate their design exactly. Then there's also the complex visuals. Sometimes a pattern includes charts or schematics or diagrams, and that's going to add a layer of technical complexity. These visuals need to align with the written instructions, making sure that the person that's reading the pattern can easily follow both elements. So if you write crochet patterns, you are considered a technical writer. Trying to explain to other people what you do can have its challenges. The reason why it's so difficult is, I think, because we're afraid that other people won't see the value in what we do. We often downplay it or make it sound less than what it is right from the start of the conversation. I've heard people say, "Oh, I'm just a stay-at-home mom and I have a small crochet business on the side." Or they say like, "Oh, I just make crochet dolls. I just sell crochet patterns." Or maybe we don't even mention that part of our lives at all because we don't know how to explain it, or we don't think that other people might find value in it. What you do as a crochet designer is more than just. You're a technical writer and you specialize in writing crochet patterns, just like I'm a technical editor who specializes in editing crochet patterns, which kind of leads me to my next point. Crochet patterns always need to be edited by a professional. Crochet has been around for a very long time. And throughout the years, there have been like surges in its popularity. We saw this with COVID in 2020. Everybody and their mother learned how to crochet. Then there was a rise of new crochet patterns that hit Etsy, and the market became so oversaturated. There were a lot of people who had just picked up the craft and they started writing crochet patterns because they discovered, oh, I could sell them and I can make some money online. The problem is that because they were so new to the craft, they were really ignorant of the publishing process. They skipped over a huge step in the process. Whenever something is set to be published, it goes through several stages of publication. One of the most critical stages is editing. Without editing, the author is going to risk releasing work that contains errors or lacks any form of clarity. I mean, who wants to purchase a book full of misspelled words or sections of a story that make no sense at all? No one. That's who. No one wants to buy a book that has that kind of stuff in it. If I bought a book and as I was reading through it, was constantly finding misspelled words and I couldn't make sense of the story, I would never purchase another book from that author again. Immediately, trust that I had in that author was broken. My thoughts towards that author were not going to be good thoughts, right? I'm going to write a really bad review about that book and I'm going to share it with all of my friends too. The same goes for a crochet pattern. Suppose a designer publishes their technical copy, their crochet pattern, without going through the proper steps of technical editing. There's bound to be inconsistencies and errors, and even parts that don't make sense. Crochet patterns have intricate technical components and require specialized editing to make sure that there's accuracy and clarity. Skipping this important step is going to put you at risk of losing trust with your readers and, in turn, losing sales. You've heard the saying, don't judge a book by its cover. Well, the same goes for a crochet pattern. It's not about how pretty the cover or your pattern is, but about the accuracy and clarity of the written words. When writing a crochet pattern, it's way more important to get the technical stuff right than just to make it look nice. A pretty pattern means nothing if it's not free of errors. Your number one priority when writing a crochet pattern should be to ensure that your crochet pattern is accurate, precise, and concise. And most well known designers, you're probably thinking of one right now, one of your most favorite designers who is well known. Most of them don't have super pretty patterns, but trust me, they have professionally edited ones. Okay, so here are some terms that I want you to become familiar with. The first one is technical copy. So, technical copy is a specialized form of communication that conveys complex information. So, technical copy. The next term is technical writer. A technical writer is a professional who writes technical documents such as crochet patterns. And then there's technical editor. A technical editor edits technical copy for clarity, accuracy, formatting, style, grammar, and math errors before publication. Technical editor. Then there's crochet standards. Now, crochet standards are specifications and guidelines for abbreviations, yarn, hooks, and language used by manufacturers, publishers, and designers to prepare consumable products. Now, I have a whole series on crochet standards. Um, so you can look in the show notes and I'll link all those podcast episodes in the show notes. As a crochet designer, you need to become so familiar with the crochet standards that they just are like a second language to you. The next term is accuracy. Accuracy is the conformity to a truth or standard, and exactness. It's free from mistakes or errors, a correctness. So that's accuracy. Then there's the term precise, and that means that it's marked by exactness and accuracy. And last but not least, there's concise. This is giving the relevant or necessary information clearly in as few words as possible. It's brief but comprehensive. This word, concise, is exactly what a crochet pattern is. It's giving a bunch of information in as few words as possible. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode. Now you know every time you listen to one of my podcasts or you read my blog posts or even whatever content you might see on Instagram, you'll know exactly why I approach pattern writing with such a nerdy technical mindset. If you're new here, please take a minute to subscribe, leave a review or a rating. I would love to hear from you, no matter if you're new or not. I would love to hear from you. I enjoy sharing the knowledge I've gained over the years about designing and writing crochet patterns with you. Until next time, y'all, write that crochet pattern.